Hi. I've been...
What the fuck are you doing? Get out of here. Go away.
Oh, god damn it.
You're not me.
Damn, Paris, how did he do that? Oh, hi. I got a haircut. And my mom said it looks good, so nothing you say counts. It doesn't count. My mom said it looks good. You can't make fun of me. It doesn't count. Although do leave a comment because that boosts engagement, or so I'm told. This was the longest wait between games. 8 years and the turn of a new millennium between Super and Fusion. Metroid completely skipped out on the N64 era, meaning that Samus didn't get her debut in 3D, although she was in Super Smash Bros., but she was still missing out. Eventually, fans' patience would be rewarded on the Gamecube and Gameboy Advance. The big one, Metroid Prime, being the series' leap into 3D, which I will cover when I look at the 3D games, and on the same day, Metroid 4 on the Game Boy Advance, aka Metroid Fusion. This was the second Metroid game I ever played after seeing it get recommended alongside Metroid Zero Mission, and back then, I thought it was alright. It did kind of piss me off though, but of course I've played it since then. I'm older now by a fucking, 2 years? Yeah, I'm 2 whole years older. That sure changed my opinions on Metroid Fusion, but it doesn't matter because I spoiled in the last video that I think this one's pretty good, so let's just go on with the review. The first thing you'll probably notice about this game is that the plot is a lot more prevalent than before. Last time, outside of the intro, you just had to infer everything. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if people forgot about the Metroid larva by the time it was all grown up. But there's not only an intro cutscene for this game, but also dialogue between multiple points throughout the game. When Samus encounters a new creature on SR388, she's infected and almost killed by them. The gelatinous X-parasites can mimic living things and are extremely dangerous. Samus is saved, however, by a vaccine made with Metroid DNA because the Metroids were predators of the X-parasites, and Samus wiping the Metroids out is what caused the X to return on the planet. The vaccine had side effects, however. Not only did the infection require most of her suit to be removed, but she's also now part Metroid. Samus's 23andMe results must be extremely interesting. After being saved, Samus is sent to a research base near SR388 that's been infested with X-parasites, and because of the vaccine, she can now absorb the X to refill her health and ammo, meaning she's the only one who can actually do this job. Whoa, these are strong. Alongside her is an AI to guide her that Samus names Adam after her old commanding officer. No, not yet. I'm sort of just now realizing that Samus doesn't really act like a bounty hunter through most of the games. Every job she gets in the games is from the Galactic Federation. And sure, the jobs she can't really say no to. Like, you can't just be like, nah, I'm not gonna save the galaxy. I feel like I'm doing too much work. You can't be like that. But it's easy to forget that she's a bounty hunter. Anyway, Adam is where most of the differences with this game appear. To start, he tells you exactly where to go most of the time and gives you most of the map for each sector, which is a far cry from how you were just thrown into the game like in the past 3. Another thing that Adam brings is that at the start and end of each area, you have to talk to him, which means that Adam will tell you to do something at the end of a sector, and then when you get to the next sector, he will tell you to do it again, and it makes replaying this game kind of tedious. Sort of like the intro of most Zelda games, except there it's only the intro. The third thing is the doors. You see this blue door? In the other games you just shot it, but no. I mean, maybe there's a new item, but missiles don't open the red doors and power bombs don't open the yellow doors, so what's the deal? For some reason these doors are all locked until Adam gives you permission to open them, which is weird because they could have just had Adam tell you to go get the item that you need to open them, which would pretty much serve the same purpose, but nope, Adam just says, hey, go open the doors, and he even scolds you for opening the doors at one point when he doesn't tell you to. Oh, so you've been like this since the start, you little shit. Another other M joke, I'm so original. Sorry, we're doing the 2D games. This one's reputation didn't exist when this game came out. and I will try my best not to continue talking about it. In my opinion, talking to Adam gets very tedious. It's one of the reasons I don't replay this game as much as others. It's just, shut up Adam, I know where to go next, I know where the super missile upgrade is, so just let me leave this room. It'd be different if you could just walk right past the navigation rooms, but no, you're locked in there until you talk to Adam. The main difference in the actual gameplay is that now every enemy drops an X parasite, yellow for health, green for ammo, and red for a shit ton of both. And if that's still too much grinding for you, the start of each sector has a recharge station, meaning that grinding is never really required. It's often probably faster to just run back to the recharge station than try to grind yellow parasites. Also, I just want to mention this new suit. This looks amazing! A nice yellow and blue, a cool new direction. Oh man, I wonder what the Various suit looks like. God, what? Oh god, it has the same color scheme. What the fuck is this supposed to be? Is this supposed to be thermal? Well, turn it off, my eyes hurt. Before I get too ahead of myself, because of the Metroid vaccine, the cold hurts Samus without the Various suit, just like the Hot Room suit in the past games. Meaning that not only do these ice parasites hurt you, but you also can't get Ice Beam. Oh yeah, item progression is also completely different from the other games. First off, you only get new items and abilities from data rooms when Adam tells you to. Because of course you have to wait for Adam to tell you to. But that means you can't really sequence break to my knowledge. You also do get new abilities from bosses. After you kill them, it turns into a Core X, and once you break it, you gain a new ability. I love and hate this feature. On one hand, it sucks to just barely beat a boss, and then the Core X kills you, sending you back to your last save, because yes, even when this game came out 2002, there were still no checkpoints, you went back to your past save. But I do love how most of the bosses use the abilities they give you. This guy rolls into a ball, so you get the Morph Ball. This thing jumps high, so you get the High Jump and Jump Ball in one upgrade. This guy gives you Wide Beam because he's a wide motherfucker. And also, that's the Spazer. I don't know why they changed the name, but yeah, from this point on, the Spazer is now called Wide Beam. And this thing gives you Various Suit because it's very annoying. Not really, but seriously, what the fuck is this supposed to be? It does drain the data room for Various Suit, so that's an interesting thing the X can do that I don't think is really mentioned that much. Not that I read what Adam says all the time, but speaking of bosses, I don't like this eye thing that covers the doors before them. Sure, it was in Super Metroid, but there, every time it opened its eye, it was vulnerable. Here, it takes 3 missiles to kill them at first, and the pattern is completely random on if you can hit it or not. You can one-shot it later with Charge Beam because it has this little spark that comes out at close range, and it does a ton of damage. Like, if your aim and timing is good enough, you can use it to kill this boss in 2 shots. And speaking of this guy, he gives you the speed booster, which has been very improved since last time. There's no run button for starters, and shine sparking doesn't take health. And the window for choosing the direction is also a lot bigger, so it's just a better ability than it was in Super. The missiles have also been greatly improved from Super. Instead of using a button to equip it and then needing to push it again to unequip it, which gets tedious when you have 5 things up there, holding R changes you from the standard beam to the missiles, and diagonal aiming is now all locked to the L and the D-pad. And when you get super missiles, they just boost the ones you already have instead of being a new item. Also, I'm just now realizing while recording this that there's a bit of a common theme throughout this whole video. But I both like and dislike this method. On one hand, it is way easier, much more convenient than needing to equip it and then unequip it and push the button twice. I know that's not a lot, but it's just easier, and you get a lot more than just 50. But on the other hand, it makes them feel weaker since enemies scale with you as you progress. So the super missiles only feel super like right after you get them. It's not a huge problem, but it's something I noticed, especially because I didn't even realize super missiles were in this game for the longest time. I just thought you always had regular missiles. Speaking of items, if you're playing on a file that has already beaten the game before, as indicated by this Metroid on the save screen, you get a list of every item on the map screen, so if you go for 100%, you have a checklist right there, which is pretty convenient. Why the hell would you need that many power bombs? You know, for the most linear Metroid game, they sure use a lot of hidden blocks and paths. It reminds me a lot of Metroid 2. Funnily enough, they're both handheld games. I imagine that this could be kind of annoying for those who aren't as versed in shooting every tile with every weapon just to get down here and see, oh shit. Going back to the plot that I forgot about because I was skipping through the text without thinking, the X that infected Samus's power suit formed into a version of her at full power, and since we're now part Metroid, the Ice Beam is devastating to us. This thing, called the SAX, is part of the game's stronger elements to those more versed in these games, but for newcomers I could see it being extremely annoying because these segments are pretty tough. Not only do you start this game at the weakest Samus has ever been, and even once you start getting stronger, the SAX is always untouchable. At first it's easy enough to avoid. For a GBA game the sound design is fantastic, but when you have to run, it's fucking intense. It does so much damage, you have to pretty much memorize how the AI works just to avoid it, and it's only stopped by hiding behind a corner. I guess it thinks I'm too smart to hide somewhere so obvious? But for as great as these parts are, they pretty much make it a horror game. See, October horror game, it works. I wish there were more of these. Its intro is very strong, but it's so easy to forget about despite the fact that Adam hasn't authorized the use of short-term memory loss yet. Since you can't have Ice Beam, you now get Ice Missiles. I'm mostly negative on this change. It has the same problem that Ice Beam did in Metroid 1, where now one-shot enemies take 2 shots even though the missile still hurts, but you now still have to shoot them twice. So far, this is the hardest game in the series to write a review for because the main game is all over the place. You just go into an area, do what Adam says, maybe something important happens. Like this area, you have to regulate the airflow with these things that have Gamecubes on them. Or this time when the base almost self-destructs. Or when you find the animals from Super Metroid are still alive and well. These are all fun parts in fun areas. The design of each sector is really well done, but they aren't really important or memorable. I was going through thinking I was still a decent way from the end, and then suddenly I was in a secret part of the base with Metroids in it. Wait, Metroids? But they're all gone. But no, here they have Alpha, Larvas, Zetas, the other word that I'm totally not forgetting right now. Oh, the Galactic Federation was up to some shady shit, weren't they? AJ didn't know how to mention that there was a mistranslation, that his only source that he could find was Reddit, but most people agree with it, and I've heard a lot of other people talk about it. Just fucking trust me on this one. The Japanese text indicates that a rogue faction of the Federation was the one responsible for the Metroids and not the Federation as a whole. Get out of my house! Also, right now the weather thing on my computer just says flood. And it is hot as hell in my room despite being like 60 degrees outside. This is some bullshit! So yeah, they teased this earlier, at least I think this is what they were teasing, but it's so empty that I forgot about it literally the moment it ended. The SAX shows up, but since the X-Parasites see the memories of their hosts, it starts blasting the Metroids and the section is destroyed with it inside. You know, that kinda makes you think, maybe its motives were never that different from Samus's in the past. Samus is now part Metroid and the XAX is hunting you. Like Samus hunted the Metroids in Metroid 2, but it's dead now, so let's go get our scolding from Adam for taking the only available path back to the navigation room that just so happened to open a door that he didn't want me to open. Though of course there are more fucking SAXs. Well, now that there's almost no chance of surviving, let's start making our way back out of here and... Oh, it's you again. And you're dead again. So does this mean Ridley's gone for good? I still don't fully know how he came back the first time since he exploded, but being taken over by the X, it's gotta be the last straw for him, right? Right? Also, I remember Ridley kicking my ass the first time I played this. I think the bosses in this game are some of the hardest in the whole series. The security bot, Nightmare, Ridley, the SAX all kicked my ass when I first played this. They hit hard and can take a lot of shots. I think part of the skill is needing to know when to use missiles and when to use charge shots. But you can expect to die a few times on your first playthrough, especially if this is your first Metroid game. Eventually, after doing some things that I think were important, Adam locks us in a room so we can't stop the Federation from taking the X-Parasites to use as weapons. Here's where Samus lets it slip that she named the AI and it suddenly takes on the personality of Adam? Wait a minute. Maybe Adam was an X-Parasite the whole time! Or they just never explain it. Adam tells us to divert the station's orbit so that it blows up not only the X-Parasites here, but also on SR-388. But when we get there and SAX shows up and turns into this thing, and then the Core X runs away so you don't even get a new ability. But once we're back to our ship, that doesn't look good. It's an Omega Metroid shows up and it one-shots us. At this time there's no Metroid larva to save us, but the SAX shows up and sacrifices itself, and its Core X gives us the Ice Beam. Be careful during this part, because if you die during the Omega fight, you go back to before the SAX fight. Come on, I know I mentioned it earlier, but there still aren't checkpoints in these games, not even a save after fighting what could be interpreted as the final boss. But anyway, we kill this thing and escape with the animals from earlier. It also appears that absorbing the Core X turns Samus back to normal, since Adam said the Ice Beam would be incompatible with her new form, but who knows, he could have been lying, it's not made clear. And it is believable that he would be lying, because they were trying to keep Samus from being too powerful. I know I sort of just threw a lot of criticism at the game, but trust me, it is really good. I just don't think it's as strong as the others. And other than Super, so far it's the best game I've looked at, but I really cannot recommend it as a starting point. It has kind of a similar problem that Super Metroid has, but for very different reasons. Super Metroid was cryptic, and without knowing a lot about how these games work, you're going to get lost. But here that isn't a problem, because Adam spoon-feeds you where to go most of the time. The problem is that the bosses are way too hard for people who don't know how these games work. Like when Nightmare increases the gravity, on my first playthrough, I had no idea that charge shots could also hurt bosses, or do as much damage as they do. I did many playthroughs shooting super missiles at Ridley, but charge shot fucking shreds him. Now that I've played pretty much every game, I think it's great, just with a few flaws that bring it down in ways that it kind of stick out. Skipping through the text in every area, a lot of the good changes have a catch. The bosses are going to massacre you, and there's still hidden things that newcomers will never find. But the X-Parasites are a great story and gameplay mechanic. In fact, I like a lot of the story that isn't being jammed up your ass by Adam. Like these Ice X's. Before getting the vomit suit, they rush towards you and hurt you when you absorb them. But eventually they realize that you got the very suit and start running from you. It's amazing storytelling. Just like Super Metroid, as a fan this game is great, and so far it is the best starting point, but not the one that I would recommend personally. Like Super Metroid, I didn't like it at first, but it grew on me. However, I'm still conflicted about a lot of it. If for some reason you're a Metroid fan and haven't played it, then you really should, but I just can't compare it to Super. I just think Super is that much better. It was pretty experimental with most of its changes and greater emphasis on story, so I'm willing to be a bit lenient with the fact that it's not as polished as it could have been. And even though I don't play it as much, it doesn't mean that it's not a very solid and pretty enjoyable experience. Ooh. Man, these X are starting to kick in. So I better wrap it up. Join me next time when I look at Metroid Zero Mission, another game on the Gameboy Advance, making this the first time that two games have been on the same system, even though I know that Prime 2 came out first, but it doesn't count, shut up. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, then please like it and subscribe with notifications on, because if it is your birthday, happy birthday, and I will see you in your dreams.